Hey y'all, welcome to Alley Cat Customs, where in this video, it's upgrade time. I'm going from this Spartan brand lunchbox style locker to this pure beef Moser full spool. So stick around, it's going to be fun. Alright, so any of y'all that have seen my earlier videos where I built this 10 bolt, you knew that I was expecting breakage at some point, knew I was running on borrowed time with the lunchbox style locker and the type of abuse that I was going to put with it. But I wanted to run it until it broke, and well, it broke. Wasn't as spectacular as I was expecting it to be. I'm kind of happy about that. Decided I was going to upgrade anyway, so as long as nothing else is broken in here, I went ahead and bought a Moser spool. And I'm going to be installing a Moser spool to complement the C-clip eliminator shafts that I already have installed. So about to break this apart and take a look at it. I want to show y'all where it broke at. First pass of 2020. I want to take it out and making another video about swapping carburetors. And I took it to the track, and my first pass come off the trans brake, and well, I'll just show you the video so you can see it. Well, so as you can see, that was a disaster. The locker wasn't engaged when I launched, and these lockers are supposed to engage every time you stand on the throttle. So what I'm thinking may happen is either the teeth on the passenger side of the right rear axle shaft have worn down to where they're not engaging fully, or it might be something in the spring set up inside of it. So I won't know until I get it apart, so about to dive right in right now, pull the cover off, get the fluid out of it, and see what we got broken. So diving in. Golly, that stuff is good. Boy, that the right stuff silicone really glues this together real well. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of damage in here. See a little bit of metal shavings on the magnet. The oil smells wonderful. So diving in here and seeing what I'm looking at. Well, on the initial inspection, I'm not seeing anything really wrong with the locker. I forced it to lock and unlock, and I took a little video so I can show it to you right now. Of course, on video you can see that it locks and unlocks, and that's showing the passenger side locker. When there's no power applied coming in, the locker can unlock as you're going in curves and stuff. So you can actually take one tire and spin it and rock it, and it'll cause the locker to unlock. And that's what I was doing. I don't see any teeth that are bad. I don't see any that are rounded off from the outside looking in. The springs seem to be engaging, so I'm not really sure what's causing it. I haven't found any metal chunks and stuff inside the housing. So I'm just going to pull it out and save it. Maybe once I inspect it, maybe I'll find something broken. And if I don't, I got another project. We got a front end I'm going to put it in on a truck that only ever sees mud going to a deer camp and stuff like that. And I might be able to save it and use it there where it's not being abused as hard as it is here. So in the meantime, I'm gonna clean this up, get ready to pull the axle shafts out, and move on to the next step. So get started cleaning. All right, so when you're trying to reuse a set of gears, like what I'm doing here, we'll pull the ring gear out and replace the factory carrier with a full spool. When you do this, you need to make sure that you get the wear pattern the same as what it is when you take it apart. If you get the wear pattern messed up on it, it can cause the rear end to just eat itself and make all kind of noise and stuff. So you check your backlash and you record your backlash, and then you do a gear pattern wear mark on it. You put your marking compound on there and make the rear end spin around, get a good pattern, and you record that. So when you go to put everything back together, you can recheck your pattern and recheck your backlash. And if it all looks good, then you're home free, and you should be able to run it just as it was and not have any noise, and hopefully it won't eat itself. So I got mine. I'm checking my backlash right now, and it's just a little bit more than it was when I put it together. Of course, it's got about 2 years worth of wear on it. So right here, it is reading right at 10,000 on the backlash. So I'll pull this off, and I'll put the gear marker compound on it, and check my pattern. And once I get it checked and take a picture of it so I have it for when I put it back together, then I get ready to pull the wheels and tires off, get the axle shafts out of there so I can get this whole assembly out. Axle shafts still look good. C-clip eliminators still good. Get ready to go back in so I get the spool put in. All right, so I got both axle shafts pulled out of here. I'm about to pull the carrier out. Before you pull it out, make sure you have a place to lay everything down right below you, and make sure that when you pull the caps off, you remember which direction they go and which side they go. Behind the caps and between the carrier and the housing will be shims on either side. So make sure the left cap goes on the left side of your toolbox or table or whatever you have laying down, and the right side goes to the right side. Lay them down in order. That way when you go to put this stuff back together, you'll have your left shims and your right shims, and you can get a baseline check on your pattern and see if you need to move back and forth. You have to adjust the shims left or right to move the ring gear back and forth. But just make sure you know where everything goes and put it back together the way it came apart, and it should be pretty close to your pattern. So about to take it apart. Alright, so I got the ring gear removed from the stock carrier here, and I'm going to set this aside, and I'm eventually going to take the Spartan apart and take a look at it and see what's wrong with it. If there's nothing wrong with it, I may use it in another project that's much less abusive than this one. But if I find something wrong with it, then I'll be sure to take pictures of it, and I'll post it on my social media and stuff, and show my findings of what I found wrong with it. But for right now, I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to show you my upgraded part right here. So this is the Moser full spool. It removes all the spider gears. There's nothing in here. There is no moving parts. You can see straight through this. It just splined on either end, 30 splines to match my C-clip eliminator 30 spline shafts I already have installed. Moser says do not use this with any of their any factory or OEM shafts. So I already have the upgraded Moser shafts in it. So this is a nice upgrade. The reason why I didn't use it to begin with was because I already had this Spartan and I was pressed for time and money. So I just said, I'm just going to put it through abuse and see how much abuse it takes. And about 2 years of beating and bashing on it, a whole lot of trans brake launches, 2 trips to cruising the coast, and several times at the racetrack. It held up pretty good, but it started getting clunky, and of course it fell apart at the track, and I still don't know if anything's wrong with it, but this spool right here, there's no moving parts. There's no way this is going to fail, especially at my horsepower level. So I'm going to get ready to stick the ring gear on it, and put the bearings on it, get ready to toss it in, set up my pattern, and get ready to put this truck back on the road. Alright, there's 6,000. Alright, so I got the ring gear installed on the spool. I went ahead and put the spool in here. Yesterday, the backlash I recorded was 10 thousandths. That's a little higher than what I was comfortable with on it. I thought about it over, last night after I got done cleaning everything up. And I went ahead and readjusted the backlash and got it closer. I got it down to 6 thousandths. And I ran a pattern on it, and the pattern looks pretty good. It's kind of hard to judge a pattern on a used gear. Most of the time you can really only judge by the coast side of the gear. So as long as your backlash is correct and you know you had a good pattern to begin with, it's really, you go by the coast side of the gear on the pattern, and if it looks good and if the backlash checks out good, then go ahead and run it. So I got my backlash down to 6 thousandths. Pattern looks good. I've got all the bolts torqued up here, so I'm getting ready to put the cover on and put my axle shafts in and get ready to put this thing back on the ground. Well, now that I got the axle shafts installed, it's time to stick the cover on this rear end, fill it full of fluid, and get ready to head to the track. But I got one more upgrade to do to beef this rear end up to handle the abuse that I put it through, and that's this right here. This is Moser's heavy-duty aluminum differential cover, and this cover here is designed to keep the deflection down in the rear end on the ring and pinion. So when you're really putting some abuse to it, like I am with a big block and the trans brake and slicks, this cover here with the flange on it is 3/4 inch thick, and you can see the bracing on the back side, along with this girdle that goes across with these 2 load bolts here. That, as you can see right here, these 2 bolts here go down and put pressure on the carrier caps. And that helps to try to reduce deflection on the rear end, to try to keep a good pattern on the ring and pinion. So it tries to give it the best advantage it can to try to keep a good pattern and keep the rear end locked up good and tight. So hopefully you don't break any ring and pinion gears when you're really putting abuse to it. So go ahead and bolt this on and fill it full of fluid. Get ready to head to the track. Well, I got the racks put back together and it's ready to go. I'm really happy that I went ahead and got that Moser differential cover, because the fit and finish on it is really nice, and the added strength that it provides should help that 10-bolt last with the abuse that I put it through, especially now that I got that clunky lunchbox style locker and the stock carrier pulled out and replaced with that full Moser spool. So I really can't wait to get it on the track and see what it'll do. Spools like that aren't really supposed to be used on street vehicles. They're more meant for straight up race vehicles that's taken to the track and stuff, mostly because they have some kind of weird handling characteristics that make the vehicles handle kind of sketchy, especially in the rain and stuff like that. But for the limited amount of street driving that I do with this truck, I'm not really worried about it, because I'm not going to drive it in the rain anyways. So it doesn't really matter for what I do, but for people that want to drive on the street a whole lot, a spool isn't really something that you want to deal with, but lockers pretty much handle the same way, except for they lock and unlock, so it's kind of whatever you want to deal with on that. But for what I'm doing with the truck, the spool works just fine, so really happy with that. So the truck's pretty well put together. As you can see, I went ahead and put my Mickey Thompson 28-10-5 Pro Bracket Radial slicks on a set of Bassett 15 by 10 inch racing wheels. So I'm really excited to get this truck to the track next weekend and see if I can get them 60-foot times to come down, because I've been having some traction issues, especially my drag radials. Well, as you can see, the truck hooked up hard, made its fastest pass ever, but it broke on the big end, and you'll get to see what I broke and how I fixed it on the next episode of Alley Cat Customs. So I hope you liked this video, and if you did, make sure you like and subscribe at the bottom of the page if you haven't already, because I have a whole lot more projects to do and more videos to make, and you can catch those right here at Alley Cat Customs.